The Remington shotgun trembled in her grip as heavy boots thudded on the old oak porch. Two shadows, maybe more, loomed outside the farmhouse window. Sarah clutched the faded quilt her sister had sewn years ago, her back flat against the rough-hewn wall. "We know you're alone in there, sweetheart." 8 years. 8 long years Jack Harlan had spent isolated on this vast Kansas prairie, loyal to his late wife's memory, until last month when her sister showed up unannounced, with eyes like storm clouds and a past that could unravel everything. Now those eyes aimed down the barrel, waiting for the man who'd vowed never to feel again. The door buckled under a kick. Would he make it back in time? And what would their hidden passion cost? The year was 1892, and the Kansas plains were still a land for tough souls who staked their claims in wheat fields and endless horizons. Jack Harlan fit right in 6'2" of sun-baked muscle and quiet sorrow, tending 200 acres of golden crops and a small herd of dairy cows that dotted the flatlands. His palms bore the marks of it all: plow handles, fence posts, the blisters from digging his own wells. Twice he'd built this life, once with dreams, once with sheer grit. Mary had passed 8 winters back, taken by a brutal fever that swept through in the dead of January. He left her belongings untouched: the yellow sundress in the closet, her silver comb on the vanity, still tangled with auburn threads. The bed they shared stayed empty under patchwork blankets that carried hints of rosewater and faded joy. Neighbors' wives dropped off apple crisps. Their daughters lingered at the property line with hopeful smiles. But Jack Harlan had loved once, deeply, and when that love vanished in a haze of sweat and delirium, a piece of him went with it. Letters arrived quarterly from Chicago, Mary's kin checking on poor Jack, though they'd never warmed to their girl marrying a farmer. He tossed them in the fire unreadunal the one in September. "Rebecca's in a bind. She's fled a match with Victor Langford, you remember, the railroad tycoons. She's fixated on the serenity Mary described in her letters from Kansas. If she turns up, don't send her packing. She's got no other refuge. Signed, Eleanor Wilkins." He'd crumpled that one, too, but the plea lingered as October winds whipped the fields. The evening she arrived, he was repairing a windmill under a lantern glow. Riding back, he spotted lights spilling from the windows, the first after-dark warmth his home had known in years. She perched at Mary's pine table, leafing through Mary's old recipe book. Jack froze in the doorway, his pulse racing. Same auburn waves, same slender fingers, same thoughtful tilt of the chin. But where Mary had been a steady earth, this woman was wildfire. "You're Rebecca?" "Sarah." She met his gaze, her eyes gray where Mary's had been green. Different, yet stirring echoes. "Sorry for barging in." The latch was open. Latches don't need bolts out here. He stepped inside, aware of his dusty overalls, his faint scent of hay and sweat. "Your folks are fretting. My folks traded me for stock options." Her tone held a sharpness Mary's lacked. "Victor Langford promised them rail shares for fresh bride. I'd rather starve on the plains than choke in Chicago." Dust devils swirled outside as a storm brewed. "Gale's rolling in," Jack said. "I know." She shut the book. Mary wrote about Kansas storms, how they could bury you if you weren't watchful or free you if you dared. What had Mary shared about this place? About him? And why did facing Sarah Wilkins feel like suffocating and reviving all at once? She was hopeless in the kitchen, scorched the biscuits, oversalted the stew, and almost torched the place, fiddling with Mary's cast-iron stove. "City gal," Jack grumbled, mopping up her mess. "I can adapt." Sarah stood framed in the doorway, Mary's apron tied over her city gown. The image twisted a knife in his gut. Mary adapted, didn't she? Mary was built for it. How? He didn't elaborate, couldn't voice that Mary had been calm prairie grass while Sarah was a tornado. Mary eased into farm life. Sarah battled every bit the solitude, the labor, the vast quiet. But she was tenacious. When he caught her in the barn at first light, attempting to feed the chickens with manicured hands, something in him stirred. Like this, he positioned himself behind her, his rough palms over hers on the feed bucket. Firm but careful, she smelled of lilacs and resolve. When she leaned in him briefly, Jack's breath hitched. "There," she murmured as grains scattered right. "I got it." "You did." He pulled back fast before regrets set in. The dust storm struck 4 days on winds howling like banshees, dirt blotting out the sky. Jack tallied half his cows astray, lost in the choking haze. "Gotta round 'em up. In this, you'll choke out there. They're my everything." But she was already grabbing Mary's wool coat, jaw set in that familiar stubborn line. "Then I'm with you." "No chance. You need backup, and I need to earn my keep here." Did she belong? At what price? They located the herd in a gully 3 miles east, half buried in drifts but breathing. By the time they herded them home, Sarah's face was caked in grit, her fingers numb. Jack stoked the hearth and brewed tea spiked with bourbon. She huddled in blankets, shivering. "Thanks," he said softly. "For not quitting." She peered at him over the mug, and for a second, he saw not Mary's echo but Sarah Wilkins' fierce, unyielding, radiant on her terms. Is this what Mary felt? This fits in? Mary never fought for it. Maybe that's why I'm staying to claim what she didn't have to. The words lingered like embers. Jack rose abruptly, seeking refuge in space. But that night, in his chilly bed, he strained for her breath from the spare room, pondering the warmth of companionship after so long. When he heard her muffled sobs, it took all his strength not to cross that threshold. Some fights, he convinced himself, were solo. The intruders hit on a Thursday while Jack was in town fetching wire. Sarah spied them from the window 3 riders with the sly gait of opportunists. She'd known their kind in Chicago, grifters who preyed on remote spreads, betting on no quick aid. Mary's recipes mentioned themvagabonds targeting lone homesteads. She grabbed the Remington from above the fireplace, her pulse pounding. She'd never squeezed a trigger. "Hello in the house." The leader's voice dripped fake charm, like a peddler with tainted goods. "Just need water for the mounts." Sarah stayed mute, willing them gone. They weren't. The door shattered with a boot heel, shards flying. The big one sauntered in, doffing his hat mockingly. "Well, ain't this cozy? Pretty thing all by her lonesome." His leer crawled over her like slime. "Where's your fella?" "Away. Won't return till dusk." "Ideal." The second appeared, stocky with a jagged scar across his cheek, twisting his grin into menace. "Plenty of time to chat." The shotgun weighed like lead. "Back off." "Or what?" The big one chuckled. "Gonna blast us, darlin'? Know how that works." She shouldered it as she'd seen Jack do. "Enough to try." "Doubt it." He charged. The blast roared, splintering the jam by his ear. They halted. Next hits the center mass. "Your pick." For a beat, she thought they'd bolt. The big one's gaze weighed her shake the odds. Then he smirked. "3 shells left, Missy. Reckon you can nail us all." They fanned out, circling. Sarah retreated to the table, sweeping the barrel. "Easy now," the scarred one cooed. "No need for blood. We just want to be neighborly. Real neighborly." The big one echoed, hand on his holster. Sarah fired again, clipping his arm. He slammed the wall, swearing, blood blooming. 2 left. The scarred thug drew his revolver. "You winged Hank, you witch." Shoulda scrammed. But adrenaline made her aim waver. He leveled his piece, and Sarah knew death stared back. The door burst inward. Jack Harlan stormed through like Judgment Day, his peacemaker drawn. Eyes scanned. Sarah cornered. The bleeding thug slumped, the scarred one aiming at her. "Drop it." 2 words, cold steel. The scarred hesitated. Jack's shot barked, shattering the man's hand. He howled, crumpling, clutching stumps. Both of you out, before I reconsider hospitality. The injured fled, blood trailing over Mary's scrubbed floors. Hooves thundered away. Sarah stood rigid, shotgun gripped tight. Threat gone, but shock lingered. Sarah. Jack's tone softened, approaching slowly like a skittish colt. You're okay. She locked eyes, spotting his buried terror for her, for what almost was. I thought her voice cracked. Legs buckled. He caught her, pulling her close. His heart thumped wild as hers. You held strong. He murmured into her hair. Mary's gun in a Wilkins woman's grasp, those scum, didn't stand prayer. She lifted her face. Inches apart, she traced his worry lines, the gray flecks in his beard. So close that when he looked down, sparks flew. This was at the brink. They both sensed it. Jack! Her whisper shattered his walls. 8 years of isolation, 8 years of devoted mourning, 8 years convincing himself love was a one-time deal. But Sarah Wilkins was real, vital in his arms, gazing like he was redemption, not ruin. He kissed her soft at first. A query met with yes, then fear starved. 8 years' ache poured out. She tasted of tea and valor, fingers clutching his shirt, drawing him nearer. Jack forgot all but the bliss of connection. He eased her against the table, lips trailing her throat. She gasped, arching, the sound igniting him like firewater. Sarah! Hands fumbled buttons. She didn't halt, instead urging with tugs at his belt. This was folly, this was disloyalty, this was the truest thing since forever. Her gown fell away, bearing porcelain skin in firelight. She faced him in underthings, bold and yearning. Jack's fingers trembled, reaching out then froze. On the mantel, Mary's portrait gazed with serene eyes. His wife, his only love, who'd slipped away in this room as he held her, vowing eternal devotion. Shame slammed like a fist. I can't. He retreated, breath ragged. Lord, I can't. Sarah's expression shattered. Jack, this is Mary's home. Mary's space. Mary's, he choked, unable to say husband, lest it destroy them. She redressed, hands unsteady. I get it. Do you? Tears streamed, but she held firm. I should have known I can't rival a specter. She brushed past to the bedroom. The door shut softly, echoing finality. Jack stood amid the chaos, his iron resolve in tatters. Outside, winds moaned. Inside, emptiness gaped like a scar. Mary's image beamed unchanging. Some vows, he mused, were eternal. But what when eternity clashed with now? When honor warred with hunger? When a ghost barred 2 beating hearts? Dawn broke. Sarah had vanished. Her note, brief, 3 sentences in neat script. Thanks for revealing what Mary cherished here. Sorry, I couldn't fill her shoes. The stage leaves Topeka at midday. S. Jack reread it in the cold kitchen. Embers dead, air stale without her. He ought to let go, thank fate for sparing further sin. Instead, he harnessed his swiftest team. The road to Topeka spanned 42 miles of rolling grasslands. Jack drove hard, wheels churning dirt. The coach horn blared afar, closing in. Too distant, too late? He pressed on. Some shots came once. 8 years' grief schooled him on unspoken regrets. Sarah Wilkins merited love in her own light. The depot emerged through morning mist. Brick buildings by iron tracks linking Kansas to the world. The eastbound coach idled, passengers boarding for Chicago, St. Louis, the east bustle. He spotted her on the platform, a lone figure in her coat, gripping a valise like a lifeline. She eyed the coach as if facing an abyss. Jack tethered the horses, boots echoing on planks. She turned, face cycling shock, hope, dread, perhaps affection. You came. The horn wailed. All aboard for East. He neared, close enough to see her unshed tears, to touch if he dared. He did. A conductor barked stops. Topeka to points east, the realm of tycoons and arranged fates. The horn blasted. Wheels creaked forward. Jack extended his hand. "Come home, Sarah." She glanced at the departing coach, his palm, the endless Kansas sky promising toil, winds, and love that bloomed gradually like sturdy wheat. She grasped it. The coach rattled off, ferrying others to distant destinies. Jack and Sarah stood linked, watching it fade. She smiled, not Mary's soft one, but uniquely hers. "Took me ages to see I wasn't fleeing, I was chasing this." They returned to the wagon, two silhouettes against the boundless plain. Above, Kansas heaven sprawled azure and vast, ripe with storms and promise. Behind, the horn dissolved to echo. What do you think about Jack's struggle with loyalty to his late wife versus his feelings for Sarah? Was he right to chase after her, or should he let her go? Share your opinions in the comments below, take a stand, and let me know your perspective on love, loss, and second chances. I'd love to hear from you.